Welcome to Talent on Tap. I'm Pat Waters, Head of HR at LinkedIn, and this is my partner in crime, Brendan Brown, Head of Recruiting for LinkedIn. And today we've got two awesome guests. So thank you very much for joining us today. They both work at LinkedIn. Kevin Delaney over here runs L&D for us. And then we got Tremaine Best. He's an HR business partner for LinkedIn. He supports the engineering org. And poor Tremaine's only been here less than a year, but he's got some amazing experience and insights into our topic today, which happens to be about performance reviews. Since it's the season for annual reviews, we've had a ton of conversations at our staff, in the market, and amongst our peers about the pros and cons of having that all-in one conversation once a year about the review, the burden of that versus more frequent conversations. There's like a spectrum of thoughts. So let's get into it, have a conversation, and would love to have your opinions voiced today. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, Kevin, if you could break down some of those things. I mean, I remember a time in my career in HR where the thing to do was force distribution, deal with the bottom 10%. Now things are evolving a different way. Walk us through the pros and cons of some of those different approaches.
I mean, I think for me, when I think about some of the challenges with the performance review process, it is very time consuming. And a lot of that time falls to the managers, and it is time away from the business. It can be an experience for employees when they walk into where they feel like they're being judged. And so I think that element comes in where people wonder what the outcomes are going to be from this conversation. And I think that regardless of how thoughtful we are in the process, it tends to be very quiet for most of the year, and then a large crescendo of activity around the end of the year, closing the books. There's a few other things going on, New Year planning, but we'd like you to dedicate your entire life, managers, to this process because it's heavily weighted towards the back end. And I think those are real distractions from the business versus the real value that I believe can come out of this process is conversation between managers and employees. And if we were able to reallocate the amount of time we spend talking about employees and make more effort to spend time talking to employees, I think the outcomes would be much better.
What is that ratio? I mean, I know you've done some research between the research, gathering the data, to actually you and I having a conversation. I know you and I talk a lot, so it's not about us personally, sure. Kevin, but what does the data show?
It would suggest that less than 5% of the energy spent or time spent is actually in the conversation between the manager and employee. Previously, you're spending time writing and reviewing and calibrating and recalibrating and in the tool and doing compensation decisions. And that amount of effort takes the large majority of time in the what we would call review process.
Is comp driving the machine? Is it, what problem are they trying to solve? They're losing sight of that conversation. What do you think is happening?
One, we're looking for a one-size-fits-all, and engineers may not see the same world as sales as the same as other people. Mm-hmm. Two, we're talking about human beings, so there's complexity, and we instantly have to take into account all the plan A, B, C, D, what if happens. Then we're looking at tool limitations. We wish it were as simple as ABC, but this tool makes us go into other parts of the Latin alphabet we'd prefer to stay away from, but in order to make the systems work, we have to be a little unnatural. And then I think ultimately you get down to pieces, there's outcomes. Why does it matter that I'm a far exceeds versus achieved? I've heard about this pay for performance thing. Mm-hmm. And so now you have another issue going where managers looking out for their own people are trying to protect their own, and employees go in with expectations that if I hear you say anything that I don't think is accurate, I need to fight you because it might translate to dollars and cents for me. So instead of coming in as a holistic conversation of let's make sure we're aligned, recognize me for what I'm doing, I've now got backdrop of this means money to me, this means money for my team, I need to make sure that my people are taken care of, and now we're dealing with the complexities of human beings and money.
Wow. So from a business partner perspective, you are where it meets the road. So from a line leader, from an employee perspective, especially with your breadth of experience, what lessons learned have you had? What point of view do you have today that you want to share?
I think that where I've seen it done best is the more frequent, consistent conversations, which is what Kevin is saying over here. And I think that it collaborates with Carol Dweck's theory of mindset, which is the growth mindset or fixed mindset. And there's a portion of her book that speaks to specifically feedback and how employees receive feedback, and when they hear the word feedback, how it makes them feel. And I think she really focuses on 3 questions in there. And she focuses on the first one is like asking the employee, how would you assess yourself for this review cycle? What would you do different? What did you learn from this experience? And it allows the employee to self-diagnose, and it really allows the employee to do more talking and the manager to do more listening.
And Tremaine, a question back to you on the sort of the human side of it at the line. So if I'm a manager and I've got performance review, a cycle's coming up in the coming months, what should I be doing now? What should I be thinking about in terms of preparing myself philosophically or just getting myself readied?
So a variety of different things, and I think that the first thing is receiving the feedback. So you should probably already be at the stage where you've reached out to stakeholders, peers, receiving that feedback. So in addition to the feedback, having your own observations. And I think that if you have had those frequent, consistent performance conversations on a quarterly basis, bi-monthly basis, I think it'll make for an easier conversation towards the end.
And it is about the ability to hear and receive and get feedback, right? That's the magic of improving performance overall for self and company and therefore the world. So thank you. I know we don't have a solution on this topic, but it is a journey for all of us, and it does matter. I mean, getting feedback is magic. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, guys. And tune in to our next episode. We'll be jumping right from performance review into negotiating salary and compensation.